I'm gonna check to make sure we are hot. I gotta. There we go.
Alrighty.
We are hot. Good afternoon. I'm Leon Davis, and you're tuned in to Altitude Adjustment. I'm a host on a different podcast, and I almost listed that podcast. I'll just say it anyway on City Jazz Sessions, but this is not City Jazz Sessions. This is Altitude Adjustment. I want to introduce Josh Levy of Medici MediaSpace.
You got it.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Leon.
Oh, I really appreciate you having a chance or taking the chance to sit down with me today. And I know it's Saturday and you have other things that you could be doing, but again, I do really appreciate it. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago.
Sure.
I gave you a call. I ran across Medici, information about Medici on Chris Swan's page. So Chris Swan was an interview that we did for City Jazz Sessions, and we connected as friends on Facebook, and then I saw a post he made about Medici. I thought it was interesting, so I gave you a call, and you were very helpful in talking me up, inviting me to come down, and we took a tour of the place, and then afterwards I saw your website, and you have pretty much a virtual tour on the website.
Right.
So let me, now that I made the introduction, let me get out of the way and let you talk about Medici.
Well, I think that exactly how you described our encounter, Medici or Medici, depending.
Medici, okay.
Tomato.
Okay.
I guess where you're coming from. Medici is here because of serendipitous intersections, and the name itself is from the Medici family of the Renaissance time and the Medici effect of when we bring multicultures together, exponential things happen. And I think that your story of how we met and your experience describes it to a T about, we call it Medici magic, when things like that happen.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go
ahead. There was when I came in and we sat and talked, you gave an explanation of what Medici means, mm-hmm. and how it came about. Do you have a...
Sure.
You remember that?
So the Medici, there's a book out there called The Medici Effect. I often tell that the real story behind Medici itself is one man's skeletons in their closet is the jewels of another, or the trash of one man is the trinkets of another. And so my business partner, the other co-founder, we fight over that title, by the way, who the other co-founder is. I think it says a lot about hopefully the humility of mm-hmm. Medici. And he and I met. He was on a 1-year voyage to figure out what he wanted to do entrepreneurially. Took time off from being a banker, and it just so happened that there was a group full of people in a conference room discussing what are we going to do with this space, and he sat in on that. He comes out of that meeting and he comes up and he says, I've got this idea to do a business factory, didn't really have a name for it, and lo and behold, we came up with the concept. I give him all the credit. Came up with the concept of Medici. Okay. And we basically have, from the name to the core concepts, we describe it as there's 5 main books of Medici. The Medici Effect being the namesake, and that talks about different cultures coming together. The Medici family was the family that was responsible for fueling the banking and of the artistic things going on at the Renaissance era. They also happen to be the biggest crime family, but we kind of leave that one out. But so Medici is this amazing effect of multicultures coming together. The old adage of 1 + 1 equals more than 3, more than 2, really. And that's really what Medici's all about. And if you come experience it, can't tell you how many people have walked through the halls of Medici and said, I've been here before. And they've never been here before. It's just vision-like, it's magical, it's serendipity. It's just it's quite an experience. We say it's a 3-dimensional concept. You cannot see it just on a website. You have to come enjoy it for yourself.
I agree. I was surprised I didn't realize how large the building is. You got quite a bit of space here, and you've been in business.
So officially as Medici, we're going to approach our 2-year anniversary in July/August, depending on when you want to announce the actual official start. So we're approaching our second year, the conclusion of our second year, and we have over 50,000 square feet of space that is artistically designed for media purposes, either producers or consumers of media and business consulting.
So one of the things that you said to me was, everyone is either a producer or a consumer of media.
Absolutely.
So everyone that walks through the door has an investment in how things go on here.
Absolutely. We are membership driven. So we say that we're members too. We actually pay membership dues, my co-founder and I, and we treat everybody as if they're a co-owner with us. So they have not only the vested interest in the media side of things, but the vested interest in everything that goes on here.
So now one of the things you also mentioned was you have office space here. So like if someone's, so let me go back. So all of the members are either creating or somehow related to media and media consumption.
They're either consumers or producers, which pretty much is everybody.
Sure. They collaborate with each other. So you have one member that comes in and maybe they do music, mm-hmm. and one of the other members may have a need for that music, so they collaborate.
Right, so we are a collaborative, we're riding the wave of a co-working space. The co-working movement is definitely going across the world. People want something maybe a little different than a Starbucks coffee shop. So it's the co-working collaborative environment, and then we like to say that, I like to say that people come here for the people, the other members, the place itself, and the projects that we're working on. So it's the people, place, and projects.
So now, do you facilitate that, or do you let that grow organically? How does a member know that another member has tools or something that they could use?
You're learning the lingo right away. We are very organic by nature. I mean, word of mouth means a ton, but we also like to deploy the media in which we are experts and producers and consumers of. So whether it be a podcast like this, or a jam session, musical collaboration event that we host on the third Thursday coming up, and in fact next Thursday we've got the jam session. It's just amazing. Then we have strategy sessions where we collaborate with one another. It's open to guests and visitors, and we just, it is, I'm describing it so it clearly isn't indescribable, but
sure,
it is something you have to experience.
Yeah. When you first, so one of the things that I have said in the previous podcast is that a business is usually a solution. It is a solution to a problem that society has identified. And one of the things that, so for big media, we always think of West Coast, East Coast. What were the challenges that you thought you would face opening a media company in the Midwest?
So it's interesting because the media side of this is lower on my personal list of things that I'm passionate about. I'm more passionate about just helping people in a business sense. But we have members here that, Deverick Legone, for example, he wants to bring Hollywood to St. Louis and the media industry to St. Louis. We have members who specialize in video production and music and the arts and all of this stuff, and they often say it's on the coast and in fact flyover talent, and just this notion that we have a lot of talent here in St. Louis to be more of the producers of that content.
So getting out the word in an area that's not traditionally known for its media, do you find a specific challenge there that has been, I don't know, maybe pushing your boundaries?
I think I think that it's we're just right for it time-wise. I mean, social media. I mean, media is anybody can put together a podcast, right, Leon? I mean, anybody can have their own channel on YouTube. Anybody can have. So it's really that the timing is ripe. The talent's always been here in St. Louis. We have got great, very Midwest news anchors and media has been prevalent here. It's really just a matter. I know you're fond of the press, so we were talking about that before the show. But you know, in today's world, it's easy to have. You just it still takes the grit and the grind to just do and to put it into action.
So any new business is tough, and you've survived the first year, Jinx.
Sure. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And by the way, this is real wood. Have your growth been what you anticipated?
In some ways, just like any business startup, in some ways the growth has exceeded our expectations. The positive vibe and the news and the word of mouth and the spread has just been remarkable. As any anxious business owner that dreams big, you know, it's never fast enough. Okay. But to survive is really remarkable, and we're growing. You know, and we try not to compare ourselves to others, but we're growing fast, and we're taking it one day at a time to see where this goes. And you know, we set benchmarks and goals, and so far so good.
So one of the questions that I had, because we did a walkthrough and a tour, and I was impressed by some of the things that I saw, and so one of the questions that I had was, so you've got what do you call it? Green room?
A green screen. Yeah,
a green screen room.
Studio that's got green screen. Yeah.
And
podcasting.
You got the podcasting. You got the audio mixing board.
Yep, we got the audio suites and sound rooms, and sound booths.
So what do you use to go about building out those spaces so that you know what's going to be needed?
We build them on demand. I mean, some were here from pre-existing businesses, and we just put them together. I tease people on the tour that say, Brian Lunt, the other co-founder, he's a docent to the City Museum. So when you walk through, you see just random amazing things like pianos and organs and church pews and different eclectic collection of what's out there. So he really has the vision for the space.
Oh, okay.
And the space itself, he'll do it on a vision combined with what's demand. So if we have someone that comes in and needs a customized studio for the right demand and the right dollar and the right business plan, we customize the studio. If he themes out a room, this room that we're sitting in is themed out like a Scottish room, and we've got other rooms designed, of New York and Paris and different things like that. So,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I just want to keep up.
All good,
because I know your time is precious,
as well as our viewers.
As well as our viewers. So I already asked you kind of about the future and the current. So you're kind of happy with where you're at.
Happy but never satisfied.
I understand. Do you anticipate outgrowing this space?
50,000 square feet is a lot of space, so I don't anticipate necessarily growing out of it. We can take on a lot more, but we have already been approached for Medici in other cities, Medici in other parts of St. Louis. I like to recall the story. It took 11 years for Starbucks to open up its second location. So we're going to learn. We're going to adapt, and we're going to make sure that we've got the business model right before we go expanding to second cities or second parts of St. Louis.
So how would you measure right?
So it really becomes a capacity issue. Right now we have more than 150 members, and we're nowhere close to reaching capacity on space. time, our own time, and figuring out how to put systems in place to handle the growth is really what's important. And I think you got to do that one step at a time, and we're doing that. We try to practice what we preach. So Work the System is one of our books that we preach and try and follow.
Now there was you had mentioned 4 books.
5 total.
5 books.
Yep.
Now are these physical books that you wrote or that have been written?
They're physical books that have been written. I again credit the other co-founder, or Brian, with he's much more the avid learner by book, and he brought these 5 books to my attention. One I had already known of, but basically the Medici Effect is one. Work the System, as I mentioned, is another. It basically talks about that if you document everything, you can take a 60, 80-hour work week and really narrow it down, because everything is documented and systematic. I don't know how you can document and systematize one's thoughts, but we're trying that with artificial intelligence and different things like that. Unique Ability is another book that is one of the founding principles of Medici. It stands for everybody has their unique ability, and you do what you do best and delegate the rest. And that has been very important to the growth and one of the core principles of Medici. The other is called the Platform Revolution. The Platform Revolution talks about how Airbnb is one of the largest hospitality companies, and they don't own a single property. Or Uber at one time was one of the largest transportation companies and didn't own a single vehicle. So these are platforms that we build that can be launching pads to major growth. And we think of Medici as a platform that people bring their business to Medici, and it grows exponentially as well. And then that 5th book is called The Dream Manager. And The Dream Manager is a book about a janitorial company that was having employee engagement and retention issues. And what they found was by really focusing on the dreams of their employees, that one, for example, they needed transportation. So if they fixed transportation as an issue, or sending kids to college, if they could fix that, the retention and the employee engagement went off the charts, and so did their growth. Okay. So a broad breadth of 5 books that represent what Medici is all about.
Now, are these books written by different authors, or?
They are. You're going to really challenge my memory of the authors. I think they're on our website.
Okay.
So I would recommend.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of the books,
mm-hmm.
so I'm challenged.
Yep.
By that also.
I know Sam Carpenter is an author. I know the authors, but I gotta,
I understand. Yep. So one of the things that you had mentioned was repeatability. I like to believe I was a business consultant, mm-hmm. and one of the things that I had learned, or I was taught, that it's important to be able to repeat something. So building something that was definable, mm-hmm. and repeatable, and that's what you're trying to do with Medici.
Absolutely.
So you're leaving yourself opportunities to emulate this again someplace else. Do you have a major competitor?
I would say so. It's great that you brought that up. In addition to the 5 books, we have 10 core values, and they're not listed in order of importance, and I'm not going to be able to recite all 10 of them, but one of the ones that I'm very familiar with is the abundance mindset. And when you talk about competition, my quick answer is let's go to an abundance mindset, to where first let's analyze, is the market growing? Is it big enough that we can have an abundance mindset?
Okay.
In this particular case, it is. So rather than view our competitors as foes, we actually can treat them as marketing partners. The bigger the pie, the more there is to share. There's a huge wave of the co-working industry coming. It's, and we are riding that wave. There's a huge wave that says we need to work better together and collaborate and get things done together, and that exponential effect, we're riding that wave. So that's how we view competition.
Don't let me interrupt you when you
keep going.
Because I didn't write down a lot of questions, but as you're talking, there are a lot of things that are, that come to mind, and so when I start, it's just I'm thinking that the logical pause point. So for me, don't stop, because I'll retain that. And you mentioned that that the pie is big enough for everyone. One of the issues that I've covered in the past was copyright,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I need to re-examine copyright law. But as you produce, even like this podcast, the fact that this map is in the background, somebody might decide, hey, you need to pay us for that. So those are challenges that I think in the media space that are really important.
Sure.
And how are you addressing that, or are you addressing that?
So I don't claim to be a lawyer either. We have amazing lawyers as members that we can use as resources, whether it be a Brian Rogers or a Drew Bollinger, or we go outside the Medici world and tap some resources. So I would just say that people use the copyright and trademark as a fear factor in a lot of cases. Don't get me wrong, I think it's really important to protect the artists and the artistry that is copyrightable and protected. But I do know this, there has to be some sort of, if there is an infringement, there has to be some sort of damage associated with it. And so putting, and free press and having this map as an example, I can't picture any damages or infringement of copyright by having this in the background. So, I would say I don't claim to be an expert on that.
Right,
so,
I know I didn't
Morris
want
Turk, who I would plug, is not a Medici member, but he's an expert on copyright and trademarks.
Oh, okay, so you did have
We've got lots of people, but yeah. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't, it wasn't, I don't want to open up, negativity in the middle of, because, you're I see a lot of positive here,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things that people can use to build on. Like you mentioned, I started my podcast believing that there, with all of the millions of people doing podcasts, because almost every actor or singer
right.
is doing podcasts, and I still believe that there's a space. Now, I'm not expecting to reach NBC level, but I do expect that there's a place for the content that I have to offer and who I am as a person. So I see that here. I think there's a lot of potential here. I mean, you showed me one room where they did medical scenes. It's set up like a hospital,
Yep.
which I thought was awesome. I mean, I've met several local short movie makers or short story makers.
In fact, you never know what you're going to see when you come here. We came in today on a weekend, and they're shooting a music video in cubicles that used to be an old call center.
Oh, okay.
And they're having a band rehearsal in our main Studio A. We're doing a major build out, so in the warehouse there's corridors that are being built by just awesome people. You never know what you're gonna find when you come here.
Yeah, so it was great. So that's what they were doing. I came in and I sat down and there was the music going on, and so
some smoke effects that I was scared a little bit, but I get that. That's part of the joy, right?
Yeah. I thought that was great. I was really impressed by the opportunities here. That there is things that if you have the imagination, you can basically create your dream.
Yep, and that's one of the cores.
Yeah.
So, we're excited to be here. I mean, like I said, this story and that connectivity that we had, I hate to say that it happens at Diamond. It happens here all the time. The connections that we make, it's incredible.
So is there anything that you would like to add to the space that you don't? Okay, so there, the organicness of it means that you react as needed. So if someone says I I want to shoot this type of video, or I want to shoot in this type of space, and we need to build it out. Do you see, is your vision just, we will be there and we will do whatever they need to do, or this is some of the type of work I like to see come here?
More the latter. More the latter. I think each member has a different vision of what the type work that they would like to see here in different members. But what's amazing about this business model is it truly is exponential. The bigger it gets, the more value it provides its members. It's crazy. You hear things like that, oh, okay, but really, a lot of times when things get bigger, things get dilutive. This is not the case. The bigger, the more people here, the more exponential things happen. It's incredible.
So, so like all of the medical equipment, is this equipment procurement?
Sure. So what we say is, in fact, we say you can either hire or you can inspire, or sometimes you can do both. So members all have their own assets. That medical equipment, for example, is owned by one of our members, and it's all designed to be a marketplace of activity. So we make that connection. If somebody needs to use a set, whether it be for Studio A or any office space, and the other member can be benefit. It's for two people to work out, and just in any kind of commercial enterprise. So we just know that if you're a Medici member, you kind of get a lot of helpfulness. So
I didn't get an opportunity to meet your co-partner.
Yes, Brian Lund.
Brian Lund, specifically. Mm-hmm. How are you two different, and how do you manage to? Partnerships are difficult.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times it's about chemistry. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to presume that the chemistry is good, but still there's let's go this direction, let's go that direction.
In any marriage, good times, bad times, partnerships, good times, bad times. Brian will be the first to admit partnership is difficult. But the chemistry, if you want to experience it, come on a Monday morning strategy session from 9 to 11. We'd love to have you. You can see the chemistry on the positive side. We were very transparent, so you can even see the chemistry sometimes on the negative side of the conflict. Productive conflict is one of our core values. Brian and I practice that. And, if you have a shared goal, if you have a shared vision, it makes the partnership, you just have to remind yourself and kind of looking forward to that. The intentions are good and the sense of fairness is good. That's a great foundation to build on.
So, are you from the Midwest?
Born and raised in St. Louis.
Okay. Oh, born and raised in St. Louis. Yep. Now, was Brian also born and raised in St. Louis?
He was. We didn't know each other. I mean, we literally just met 6 months to a year before Medici. So.
Wow. And then you were able to pull it all together in that period of time. How long did it basically take you to go from concept to opening the doors?
I would realistically, I would say about 6 months of meeting him, getting to know him coming up with the idea, and then implementing it. So 6 months was kind of that first date phase, and then he actually came back, and then once we knew what we were doing, probably another couple months.
So you're still developing as a team.
Absolutely.
And what is the first time we're working with a team in such an environment? Like, is this one of the organic kind of?
Yeah, I mean, so both Brian and I have our own different backgrounds of different teams that we've been on and led, and his is more of the banking background, mine's the entrepreneurial, building a business and sales and marketing and so forth. But we've both been on different teams, and
one of the things that when you and I first talked, you asked me some questions about my pardon me. You asked me some questions about my visions for my podcast and stuff. and I was taken aback. Is that? I'm guessing that's just your personality. That's just who you are. And do you bring that to the other members?
I hope taken back in a good way.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Anytime you're challenged, I think anytime you're challenged.
Yes, if people who get to know me know that I'm going to challenge, and that's who and what I bring to the table. And if you like it and it's a great fit, then it fosters amazing growth.
Yeah, you challenged me. You challenged me to look at, just as I thought I had mapped out the world. I knew where I was going. I knew how I was going to get there. I had the keys to the car, and I was driving. And then you hit me and go, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? So yeah, I was pleasantly challenged. When you first meet someone and they challenge you, your first thought is, oh my goodness, what are they going to think? And you didn't do in such a way that made me feel that I wasn't doing the right things. You just said, hey, did you think about this? What is your timeline? How are you approaching that? And it made me feel that you've had either a background in business or you've done a lot in the entrepreneur area. And so you bring that to the teams that are doing what they do. And that
I have seen a lot, experienced a lot, all the stuff that we've talked about, and I think what made me so willing to say yes to your podcast, and thank you again, as I know we're short on time, but what I really wanted, what hit home with me about your podcast was the intersection, right? You talked about, I'm doing a podcast of intersecting politics and news and
politics, people, and professions.
And we said, well, that's Medici's, we don't shy away from politics, but it's not high on my list of things. But we love the intersection. We love what you described, and that's why it was so easy for me to relate to and positively challenge.
Well, I want to thank you very much. You are right. We are, because I'm doing something different. This is the first time. I was trying to avoid mentioning that this was the first time that I'd done a remote, but this is the first time I've done a remote, and so. I'm still getting down the process of what I want to do. But I do want to thank you very much for coming in on a Saturday. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. And so I'm going to close with this. The podcast is going to be available on my YouTube channel. And the audio podcast is available on Stitcher.com, podcast.com, the iTunes Store, and the Google Music Play Store. I want to thank you very much, and we'll be back next week.